Well, would you look at that? The year's almost over. But if you're like most artists, you forgot about your art goals back before Valentine's Day even hit. But your art goals mean something to you, don't they? But let me guess, something came up. You forgot about them. Or you just couldn't find the time, right? But because those art goals mean something to you, I want to teach you a step-by-step system so that you can hit any art goal that you want. And it's going to start with rule number 1 right here. So some art goals are much stronger than others, and inevitably, some people are going to hit those goals much better, much harder than others. So what's the main reason why? Rule number 1, you have to have a compelling reason why. And typically what this looks like for people that do not hit their goals is something to the effect of, well, I want to be a better artist, or I want to get a job. So the way that you get through that, friend, is that you want to ask yourself, why? You want to get a job in art? Why? Because you want to make money on your art? Why? Go deep. Go through this several times. Really get to a deep-seated answer. And somebody actually asked me recently, Sean, why do you make the content that you do? You know what I told them? Because I never had an art teacher that really inspired me. For myself as a parent, why do I continue to make artwork? Why do I pursue this artistry? Because I want to show my sons that whatever they can do, I will be the model and the example for the fact that they can do it and that nothing can stop them. And then that leads into this. So as you move towards your goals, right? This is one thing that a lot of people don't think about. And myself included, I've been really guilty of this. But you are going to have to make some necessary sacrifices in order to get to that next level, in order to achieve what you want, in order to go for the things that you want to do, in order to make the time for it. Because what most people do wrong is that they think that they can just stack and stack and stack and stack things, and inevitably, that's what leads them to misery. That gives them a reason to quit. Take a look at, what am I going to sacrifice? Are you going to sacrifice maybe going out on the weekends? Are you going to sacrifice maybe you're going to get a little less sleep? Some of y'all that need 10 hours of sleep as an adult, you really don't need that, but you think that you do. Some of you that are spending too much time playing video games or on Netflix, like, you need to pick out, what am I willing to sacrifice? What am I going to put on the chopping block because something else means more? That goes back to your why. You see how that works? You will only add more by subtracting, not by adding on and on and on. The worst thing that I see artists do is that they try and stuff 10 pounds of a day into a 5-pound bag, and then they're miserable and burnt out by the end of it. See how that works? So now that you have a good foundation, rule number 3, you need a targeted goal. You cannot leave any room for ambiguity in it. And what I see so many artists do is that they'll just make very general and unspecific goals for themselves. I want to be a better artist, or I want to get better at anatomy, or I want to get better with color, or I want to submit my stuff to a studio. Y'all, here's the secret. You have to make sure that you have something actually tangible, measurable in there. So for example, you want to get better at perspective? Great, break it down. You're going to get better at 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, 3-point perspective. If you want to get better at anatomy, all right, what kind of anatomy? You want to get better at female anatomy? If you do not have a measurable outcome, you're setting yourself up for failure on that. It's just like this, y'all. If you said that your goal this year was to lose weight, if you lost 1 pound, you accomplished that. If your goal was to save money this year and you saved $1 more than you did last year, then you accomplished that goal. Y'all, you can't think like this, especially with ambiguous results like, I want to be a better artist, want to be a professional artist. How? Make goals for yourself that are ultra targeted. But then that won't matter either if you don't do this. Rule number 4. Have you ever encountered this? Have you ever said, well, it'll be better tomorrow, maybe the day after that can be a better day, or oh, next week's gonna be better, or next month's gonna be better, or 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 2 years from now? Y'all, here's the thing. The future is always seemingly better than it is right now. But here's the thing. If you're not actively working towards that with any type of a timeline, then what's going to happen is you're going to say 6 months will be much better than right now. 6 months, you're going to be in the exact same place, and so will your art. If you want to really achieve your goals, what you have to do is you have to set a strict timeline on yourself. Cool. You want to get better with drawing hands, let's say, okay? What are you going to do what are your targeted outcomes, and in how much of a time frame. You have to put the restriction of time on yourself so that you don't allow yourself to make the excuse of why you can't do it. That's a major component to you actually being able to propel your results and for you to be able to work actively towards it. If you don't do this, friend, I guarantee you, you're gonna fall into comfort rhythms where you're just gonna fall back into your old routines that aren't giving you the results that you really want right now, and that's what's going to cause you to not hit your goal. Set hard dates on yourself. People work well on time restrictions because you have to restrict in order to grow. Rule number 5 starts like this. Have you ever had the experience where you set some big, awesome, lofty goal for yourself, like you want to get better at composition, or you want to learn how to use Blender, or you want to learn how to get better with lighting and anatomy, right? Here's the problem with that. They're such huge goals, you have to set up some checkpoints. So that's rule number 5. Set up some checkpoints for yourself because you need to feel that progress, okay? So if I set up checkpoints for myself, it would look like this. It would be, okay, by the end of this week, I'm going to have 3 portraits done. By the end of this month, I'm gonna have 12 portraits done. And then go ahead, make that list, physically write that thing out or put it in your phone. What I want you to really get addicted to on this, a really healthy addiction, is for you hitting small targets, because every single time you do that boop and you hit that checkbox, you're gonna get a quick little dopamine hit. I'm working towards my goals. I'm making progress. I'm working myself into being the artist I wanna be. I'm gonna be great. So if you really set yourself up with a checkpoint system for how to get from A to Z, you are going to inevitably hit that, and it's going to feel good along the way. Have you ever felt burnt out because the journey was hard? This is how you circumnavigate that. See how that works? All right, so everything so far seems really great. Maybe you're like, oh, whatever, Sean, this seems pretty lofty to me. But here's another critical component that we got to factor into here. Here's rule number 6 coming at you hard. You have to identify the obstacles in your way to achieve that goal, and you have to actively do your best to anticipate and remove those obstacles. Okay, so inevitably you're gonna have to make some sacrifices. Inevitably you're gonna have to take some time out of your day for it, okay? Here's a power tip, y'all. Ready for this? You need to remove the friction from you actually getting involved in that task. So it's cleaning your brushes. You need to go ahead and make sure that your art space in your desk is clean and it's neat, and you need to make sure that your programs are ready to go. Maybe you turn your computer on 10 minutes before you go ahead and you start to digitally paint. Set yourself up with these types of systems for success so that you are not floundering and giving yourself opportunities to fail. Don't give yourself excuses for it. Instead, prime yourself for success so that you're going to allow yourself to have a system for it. Identify those obstacles and make it easier for you to actually sit down and do the thing that you want to. Do you struggle with this too? Now, as you're hitting your marks and your checkpoints and you're starting to get yourself into some good momentum on this one, here's a big thing that's going to help you have a lot of longevity to hit some really big goals. Rule number 7 is that you have to incentivize the entire process. So here's what that looks like, y'all. You take that little check system that we made before, you've got your process going there, and you're starting to hit all those, okay? Give yourself a quick little reward. This can be in the form of, like, maybe you have like a little piece of chocolate. You must give the reward right after the action. This is just like if you ever train a dog, you have to give them a reward right then. It's just like when you're rearing children. You have to reward them for good behavior right then. Not an hour from then, not the next day, not the next week. Don't take them to the zoo a month later because they did a good thing a month ago. You got to reward yourself right then and there. When you do this, you're actually brain hacking yourself into releasing little bursts of dopamine, and you are training yourself, you're programming yourself to love the process, and you are forming a healthy addiction to your artwork, and that's going to be a mega sustainable way for you to continue on through the rest of this process like this. Busting into Rule 8, you have to oppose really monotonous, boring, and I would say robotic applications of everything that you're learning, all of your art goals, okay? So what I want you to do is to make sure that you have a fun application of it. If you're not actively striving towards you doing something where you're actually gonna learn your skills and apply them, then I'm just gonna be honest with you, it's worthless for you. And what you're doing is you're tricking yourself into thinking that you're making progress, but really, you're really making very minimal progress instead of great leaps and bounds. If you have a good application for it, you are going to feel compelled to want to push forward with it. And you can apply this to anything. You want to get better perspective, make an environment. You want to get better at colors, draw a landscape. Like, throw yourself into an actual project. Y'all taking so much time to do so many practices and sketches. All you're doing is you're just lightly pushing your boundaries instead of full on immersing yourself in what you want to do. So make sure that you have a project in mind and not just a monotonous execution of different skills that are honestly just half-baked. Because at the end of the day, you want to have some test of your might. I want you to be able to flex hard on what you've been learning. Now, rule 9 is super important because oftentimes it is incredibly easy. And tell me if this is you, friend. Is it easier for you to let yourself down than to let down other people? Is that you? If so, here's how you move past that, okay? I want you to personify your goal. I want you to treat it like it is another living, breathing person. In fact, the best way that I would say is that personify it like it is a child. Like, imagine for me, if my kids came up to me and they said, "Daddy, we're hungry." And I was just like, I don't really feel like it. It's not a good day. I'm not in a good headspace for it. I'm really tired. Can we do this? Can we do that dinner thing like maybe next week? I think that'll be better. I think next week will be better. If you put that and treat it as it is another living individual, somebody that you care about, then that's going to give you another reason not to give up, not to fail, because not only are you holding yourself accountable, but you're holding yourself accountable for somebody else. And often for artists, that's a way more compelling reason because it's easier to let yourself down, isn't it? The other thing you think of this is like a relationship. If you neglect a relationship, what happens? You start to drift apart, you start to argue, you start to hate each other. Just like maybe some of you watching this right now, maybe you hate your art, but you're not hitting your goals. Personify it, treat it like another human being, and then that's going to allow you to really dedicate yourself to it because you don't want to let down more than one person, yourself included. Following this entire system so far is not going to matter unless you follow Rule 10, which is that you cannot settle for less. You cannot allow yourself to let yourself down for you to not work towards the compelling future that you want to achieve for what art is going to do for you, for what that means to you, because you have such an amazing, deep-seated personal reason why you need to accomplish that goal. Because if you let yourself down, if you allow yourself to make those excuses, you are eradicating your potential. And that is not something that I think that you really want to do, don't you think? Because honestly, excuses now means that you are failing later. And how many people, maybe you're watching this right now, because I felt like this too. I've had periods in my life where things weren't great. And if you allow yourself to make the excuse for why you cannot achieve what you want to achieve with the time that you are given, then you are going to look back on it and you are going to regret that time that you didn't put forward. And I guarantee you that you will find that you wasted time. Another piece of this puzzle is that right now, there's a lot of people that are afraid of burnout, and that's often a really triggering word. But here's the problem. There's such a big fear, like it's a big boogeyman or something, that people are afraid of applying themselves and they're worrying about burnout. You can never burn out if you don't allow yourself to burn first. If you want to be a better artist, you have to continuously stretch your boundaries and stretch your limits. If you're not growing, you're dying. And that's a fact that I really want you to come to grips with, because it's really going to allow you to move forward. And one of the things that's going to not allow you to do that is by you loving and justifying your excuses. Now this plays into what are some really great goals? Like, what's a really strong art goal? Or maybe you're like, Sean, I don't even know what I should do for my art goals. I'm lost, I'm confused. Well, I got you covered on that, because if you want to follow on with my goals or something similar to it, go ahead and check out this video right here.